Hey, my good people. I'm Rob Pasker, anchor for the Young Realtist division of NAREB's YRDtv. So, yes, you know what time it is. It's Monday, it's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's time for us to create a platform for our YRD members. Okay, it's time for us to elevate, drop some jewels, get some fuel to affect our communities and the people that we serve. So, with that being said, if you don't know, you're about to get familiar. So, NAREB is an acronym for the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, which is the oldest and largest African American real estate trade association in the country, comprised of over 90 local chapters across 35 states. NAREB is the network of black real estate professionals nationwide. The Young Realtors division of NAREB was founded in 1996 with the mission of redefining the real estate culture for tomorrow's leaders by empowering the youth and communities through wealth building, career exposure, mentorship, professional development, and leadership training. With YRD TV, we are excited to have the opportunity to provide unique programming that will highlight and celebrate relevant information, policies, and real life stories surrounding black real estate in the United States. So this is a movement. It's a whole movement. It's going to take each and every one of us to move the needle of black wealth to liberation, to more freedom, more opportunities, more security. So with that being said, that's what YRD TV is about. It's about providing that platform where we can highlight our members, and all of our members are powerful. All of our members are like superheroes in their community. So it's a space for us to put people up and elevate them and learn from them, because there's something to be learned from each and every one of us. So with that being said, before I bring on our guest, let us know you're in the building. You know, this is live. So give us those hearts, because the more hearts you give us are going to be the more people that this stream gets pushed out to. So hit those likes, share it. If you feel what we're saying, if you feel us, share it, because you never know who else is going to feel us as well. And comment. Let us know you're in the building. Represent your chapter. Represent your city. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what it is. So with that being said, for those that don't know, NAREB, it says the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, but we are an organization of more than just real estate brokers and agents. We have people that are all over the industry, because the industry is bigger than just brokers and agents. So we have all types of professionals. And today we're going to bring on an attorney out of Chicago. We have attorney Mahmoud Faisal Elkhatib, who has over 26 years of experience first as a business executive and then as a litigation and transactions attorney for the last decade. Elkhatib serves several nonprofit organizations that focus on helping communities recapture their neighborhoods and empower underserved populations. Elkhatib's practice area focuses on distressed real estate. This includes foreclosure defense, building violation codes, and receivership. I met this brother in Atlantic City, and he has a heart for the people. Let's bring him on here. What's going on, my brother Faisal? What's going on, man?
Brother, it's good to see you. Good to see you again. Thank you
Hey,
so much for having me on this.
thank you for making time for us. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Always.
because you put in work. We got some people in the building. Amy McCoy is in the building. We got Atlanta. Yes. I got my brother from another mother, Clinton James San Diego's in the building. Yes, sir. So yeah, you're out there in Chicago holding it down. Y'all doing some big things out there.
We are doing a lot of big things here in Chicago. Yes, we
Yeah,
are.
we're gonna
We are.
learn. We're gonna learn. But let's get into it. Can you tell us? So, your bio says you're a business executive, you're an attorney, but what made you get into real estate with your attorney's license?
Yeah, that's very good. So, actually, being an attorney is like my seventh career, and I won't go into all the others, but it passed through real estate development. It passed through. Um, I'm actually a chemist by trade. So, what made me get into real estate was I experienced kind of the problems that I'm representing my clients in. So, I experienced foreclosure, I experienced financial problems, and I did so without being an attorney before I was an attorney. And so one of the things that really frustrated me was a lot of the attorneys I had, who many of them are fantastic, but there was a piece that was missing. So when I went into becoming an attorney, I wanted to be able to impart that personal experience, the empathy that I had. There's an old story about an AA that's I've been down that hole and I know how to get out. So I want to help those kind of get out of the hole that they're in right now, and that's kind of what I got into to real estate.
Okay, got you on that. I mean, but that's a beautiful thing. It's like you put yourself in a position to help people, and you're able to
Correct.
help people in a way that not a lot of people can.
Right. Right. Right.
Yes,
Knowledge is
sir.
power. Knowledge is power.
Yeah, knowledge is power, and I always say knowledge is power, but power is the ability to change. So the more
Right.
knowledge we have, the more that we can change the world around us to make it something that we actually want it to be. You
Very
know,
true.
so
Very true.
um,
Very true.
so in NAREB, it sounds like you found an organization that aligns with your personal mission, which is helping underserved, helping people liberate themselves, create security, and build wealth. What brought you to NAREB?
So I was doing work many years ago about in receivership, and that I know we showed up at NAREB and we do a lot of receivership trainings. And I came across Brother Courtney Jones, past president of the Dearborn Realtors board here in Chicago, over receivership. I don't know if I'm breaking up here, but and we clicked and we became very, very close, trying to figure out how to untangle receivership and really unlock many of these boarded up and vacant properties that are in the city of Chicago that are getting demoed and destroyed and wiping out entire black communities, black and brown communities across the board. And so that's really, so then, him being president, he's like, you got to join this. I think it took me all of about 30 seconds to write a check and join the organization, and I was on board ever since. Um, Being a Palestinian Muslim, and I'm going to throw that plug in, oppression is around the world, and I can't do for my people in Palestine based on my skill set of real estate and everything else, but I can help the communities that are oppressed here in this country. Um, and that's really where my love for NAREB and the organization has come from, is helping my own people, um, here and abroad, and doing that here in this country. So
Absolutely, and your service is greatly appreciated. And I'm right there with you, man. I mean, for one, be the change that we want to see in the world, and so that's why you what you did as yourself, put yourself in a position to be the change to the world around you, and
absolutely,
um, you know,
absolutely.
and I mean, I think that's something that's common amongst a lot of realtors. That's what we do. We put ourselves in position to be the change in our communities, and I mean, it starts at home. It starts with the world around us, and that's why we serve our local markets. But I wouldn't give up. Give up because Palestine needs help, and they need people like you,
That's
Faisal.
true. Didn't say I was giving up. Just saying, I'm doing my fight
Hey, man,
here.
free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Yeah, 100%. No,
We
so
just we, we just got suddenly banned from the internet right now. Who's by I'm just
they'll be all right. I'm already blackballed. Come on, man.
kidding.
I was born this way.
There we go.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a lot. Let's switch
Yeah.
gears because the real estate market is all the rage these days. Everybody
That's,
knows it's hot. So where do you see the market headed within to the near future?
that's a great question. I think the problems that we're facing with shortages in materials, I think inflation issues, raising interest rates, those are really going to cool off the market and create some issues. However, the offset to that is there's a huge shortage of homes available for people to move into. So you have this huge market of buyers you're wanting to buy, and you have this lack of inventory of sellers. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's cooled down for a bit in terms of the hotness that we saw in the summer of 2021. But I think it's going to keep going forward. There's still going to be a market, which I think is a good and positive thing for people who are struggling financially. It's a double-edged sword, right? So it gives them opportunity to get out of their problem. However, it puts them in a new problem of trying to find a place to move to and live. So it'll be interesting to see what the next 12 to 24 months are going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the thing. People say, "Hey, Rob, I want to sell my house." Oh, that's awesome because I'll get you top dollar, but where do you
Where
plan on going?
you go? Right.
Let's talk about that exit strategy. But it's one of those things, as we put people in position, like, so you got to have a plan, you got to have a strategy, and move
Correct.
forward. So we just experienced something that was unprecedented in the
Right.
world with COVID
Yes.
19. The world shut down. There was a lot of fear, uncertainty going on in the world, and a lot of it was surrounding the real estate market because a lot of homeowners took out forbearances, and
Right.
they said a crash was going to come. It hasn't come yet, but what effects do
Right.
you predict will come from the high number of mortgage forbearances that we experienced during COVID?
That's a fantastic question. I think what a lot of people are doing. So first of all, a lot of people went on forbearances. I think the number was close to about 30 to 40% of all mortgages in the country were on some sort of forbearance, which is huge. I think, from what I'm understanding, the numbers, a lot of that came back. The other piece of that was, even when there's no disaster, no crisis, there's still a regular pipeline of foreclosures. So in Illinois, that could be anywhere to 3 to 5,000 foreclosures a month. Well, during COVID, none of those got filed. So there's a what we're experiencing now is a massive backlog of foreclosures that haven't been filed during the 2 years of the pandemic that are now being filed and moving forward. In terms of the forbearance, people who have jobs and are able to get back onto their feet, they're actually reinstating their mortgages and moving forward. But as always, there's going to be a subset of people who can't afford to get back on their old payments. The other thing that we saw a lot of, which has been very disconcerting, is, as usual, the servicers and the banks were misrepresenting how to come out of the forbearance. So by that I mean, and I'll talk about what the forbearance is. The forbearance essentially was, you get to not make your payments, taxes, insurance, interest, etc., for a period of 18 months under the COVID CARES Act. And that was a federal statute that gave relief to homeowners that they don't have to pay their mortgages for now. So they went ahead, did the forbearance. Now, the question when they came back, what the requirement was, and this was for what we call the GSA loans: Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, HUD, Ginnie Mae, uh, the veterans, the VA loans. So what allowed them to do was, once they said, okay, I have my job, I can afford to get back on my mortgage payments, what they were supposed to have the ability to do was take the entire amount of payments that they missed and add it to the back of the loan. And that's not what happened. In many cases, a lot of these lenders were coming in and saying, oh no, we can't give you a reinstatement. What we have to do is we have to make a payment. So they would pay down the amount that they're owed, or make a payment towards their mortgage. Um, and so that was not, and they would force them to do that. They'd say, if you don't do this, we can't reinstate you, which was totally false. Under the statute, they could put the entire back amount on the end of the loan. You're like, well, what's the difference? Well, if I get to pay it in 34 years or 33 years or 32 years versus having to put cash out of my pocket now that I need to feed my family or to take care of my car, whatever the case may be. So that's where I think we're going to see a lot of, that's where we saw a lot of uh, egregious conduct from the servicers, um, which is kind of comes to, well, what do we do with that? And that is part of, there's a federal statute called the Deceptive Practices Act, the Federal Deceptive Practices Act. So under that act, we can claim that that was a deceptive practice where they deceived the homeowner into making payments that they didn't need to make at this time, um, and how, whatever the impact and the effect that was. So we don't know how that's going to play out, but that's one of the big things that I see happening over the next 12 to 24 months, is that counterclaim kind of really developing itself.
So you call it the Federal Deceptive Practices Act. This
Yes.
this is something I've never heard of. So for a homeowner that was in this position where they took out a forbearance, is this something that is like it will be a class action suit, or is it going to be individual cases?
It'll be a mix. I think you'll see different. You might probably you're going to see. I mean, we're attorneys, right? So we're going to find every possible way to find some way to sue somebody, right? So you're going to see a lot of class action lawsuits. I think, or you're going to see some class actions, and you're going to see some people bring in private causes of action as a defense to their foreclosure. And so people who can't forbear or can't reinstate their mortgages because they don't have the income, they don't have the ability to do so. The question is, how are they going to? What's their exit strategy, or what is their solution? So, um, under the CARES Act, they can do loan modifications. So what'll happen is the servicers will be like, "Oh no, we can't do a loan mod." Well, that's also false. So, and what we're seeing now compared to if everybody remembers the '08 crisis more than almost 15 years ago, right? We're now 13, 14 years ago. But that crisis, many of the homeowners were shamed and um, publicly shamed for being irresponsible or unqualified, that they put themselves in this situation. And what we're going to see now is a little bit more, I believe, empathy and sympathy for homeowners that they had no control that created this global pandemic that put them in this situation. Um, so those are kind of some of the things. Also, the employment market is on fire. The housing market is on fire. So those two things are going to, I think, alleviate much of the pain, but you're still going to have people who are going to be underemployed and didn't get reemployed or can't find work. Um, the other piece is the type of real estate, right? So condos are making a comeback, for example, in Chicago, but they are nowhere near as hot as the suburban markets, right? The days of, I mean, I moved out to the suburbs and, I lived in the condo and I loved living in the condo. But I got to tell you, 24 months in a box, 24 stories up in the air, that gets old very quickly, right? So I think people have decided they want the space. Um, and the other aspect is the great resignation, right? So we've all heard of that, where people are just quitting their jobs and moving. Well, remote work has also created an entirely new dynamic. So we're seeing a lot of factors playing in that didn't exist before, right? The idea that 20 to 30% of the workforce is working from home, it's unheard of. So I think what's going to end up happening is those people who are going into foreclosure, especially if they are white collar jobs, they're probably going to do short sales, get rid of their properties, and that solution, Rob, that we're talking about in terms of where they're going to go and that exit strategy, they're just going to move further and further away because they can, as long as they have an internet connection, they can still do their jobs. So it's interesting times.
Very interesting times. And I think one of the benefits of being a member of NAREB is that we're at the cusp of information and what's going on in the world. So, with all of that being said, as an attorney, what would you recommend to Realtist members who are out here in the streets? How do they prepare their businesses for what's about to take place? And how do they put themselves in a position to uh, be of great effect to the people around them, knowing what's
That
coming
is
down the pipeline?
absolutely another great question. I think as always, I think it's kind of being versatile, but trying to find, and I think the best of all of us, right? The best attorneys, the best lawyers, even the best doctors, are professionals who can find solutions for their clients, right? So understanding what your clients' needs are, that they're in that financial trouble, and keeping your ear out that they're having some sort of situation, um, helping them get out of it, right? So getting that short sale or even selling the property at market, right? Because if the market's hot enough and you can get above what they owe, that would be beneficial, right? Because we don't have the 110%, 125% mortgages we had from the like we had in '08. Now there's a lot more equity because banks are more conservative. So I think a realtist who steps into this space or even any space with their client can help them not only find a way to get out of the dilemma that they're in with their foreclosure or with their property that they can't afford, and getting them into something that they can afford That's the double edit. That's the two sides to that, right? So, and obviously that's classic real estate. You get someone out of the house and you help them find a new house. Now you've got two deals as opposed to one. I think the challenge right now is not only helping them out of their current situation because they may have, on upside down, right? And then the challenge is finding them a place to move to. Uh, so being creative is probably going to be one of our strongest points, which I always say that, those of us who grew up first generation or brown and black and brown, we have to be creative to really function, and kind of stay ahead. So that's part of our DNA is to be creative. And I think that's going to be one of the touchstones for, I think, Realtist Nation to stay ahead.
Absolutely. Creativity,
Hmm.
using our gifts, using the intuition, being resourceful to
Correct.
really, help people and also elevate our businesses, because,
Absolutely.
this is how we provide our lifestyles as well. So it's a business, but the beauty is we're able to marry our community service with our business.
Correct. Correct.
Yep. You got any other advice for realtists that are looking to take their careers to another level?
One of the things that, and I'll say this from our perspective, is when, and I want to touch more on the creative piece, right? So in many cases, the creativity, like for example, when submitting an offer, what are some of the things that you can do to tweak the offer that are very low cost and not very dangerous to your client? Um, you know, um, Favorable interest rates, or if you can get that onto your contract, um, waiving or reducing the amount, and some of this are costs, right? Waiving or reducing the amount of prorations kind of might be making more effective and appealing. And one of the things that we've actually done here in Chicago, which has been quite interesting, and I know we're an attorney state, and it's helped our clients a lot, is we've done bifurcated title deals. It's a little off subject from the foreclosure piece, but where in Illinois, for example, the seller takes over all the title work, and the costs can be, for the buyer, be anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000. So one of the ways that we've helped our clients is when we're on the buy side, is we've taken over the title portion for the buyer side and cut their fees by 40 or 50%. So it becomes an extra $1,000 or $1,500 almost grant or down payment assistance that didn't cost them anything just by reducing their expenses. That's what I mean by creativity, right? It's looking at what happens in the marketplace and looking at it from a different angle and how to approach that.
I heard that. Now, what would you call that? What term did you use?
Called bifurcating title. So
Bifurcating title.
it's where essentially we split the title between the buyer and the seller, which normally the seller does all that work. For example, I don't know if I'm not familiar with other states, but we have, you have an owner's policy and then you have a lender's policy, right? So all that, each party pays for their own side, but on a lender's policy perspective, if we take that away from the seller, then we can actually cut that in half, and that becomes a huge savings for the buyer that they normally wouldn't have seen. I think there's maybe one out of 10,000 deals is done that way. Um,
Yeah, I
but
never
that's
heard
the
that.
creativity. Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
creativity,
never
right?
heard
It's
that.
looking at it from a different angle.
And that's what
So
it takes. That's what it takes. We got a
what it takes.
question from the audience. Madam Amy McCoy, NAREB National Technology Chair. She says, who do they speak with at their mortgage company to save their home?
Great question. I think the question you want to speak to is you're going to call your servicer. The servicer is the person you're making your payment to, and it'll be on your mortgage statement that you get that says, "Here's how much you owe." Your monthly statement, and calling them and talking to them. The one thing that hasn't changed for all of since '08 is that they are very difficult to work with, and expect to spend some time on the phone talking to them. But talking to them is going to be important. You have to talk to them. You have to call them and talk to them about your options. Interesting enough, not only do you talk to them about your options, and I know many of us don't like when our clients do this, but I would definitely recommend going on the internet and researching, right? So under the COVID CARES Act, the government was very explicit as to what are the opportunities and how options that you have. Um, and you know what? I'm going to actually kind of flow into a thing here, right? So, under the CARES Act, the federal agencies that bought the loans, so Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, HUD, the VA, Ginnie Mae, FHA, these entities, all of them are under the CARES Act. But if you don't have a loan under those umbrellas with those entities, then you don't have the CARES Act protection. So what I would recommend is the first thing to do is find out who actually owns your loan. Is it Fannie Mae? Is it Freddie Mac? So Fannie and Freddie have online websites that you can go to where you can type in your name and your address, and it'll tell you, yes, you're a Fannie Mae loan. Yes, you're a Freddie Mac loan. Yes, you're FHA or HUD. So you can just Google Fannie Mae lookup, Freddie Mac loan lookup. That is a great place to start, because if you are covered, then you have the knowledge that you need to tell the servicer, no, that's not what I want. I want this because I get this pursuant to the CARES Act. That alone makes you more powerful and flips the balance of power with the mortgage lender. Now, I'm not saying you're suddenly going to get your house for free just because you said that. What I am saying is a little bit of knowledge throws them off balance. And when they're thrown off balance, they will now be more likely to help you in ways they wouldn't have before, and less likely to lie to you. Doesn't mean they're not going to lie to you, but at the very least you have the knowledge to go, no, that's not true, because this is what I'm supposed to get. So
Yeah. Well, you said it. Knowledge is power.
knowledge is power.
Yeah. So I mean, typically when somebody's going through that situation, going through pre-foreclosure, they're automatically going to just shuffle them into this or this program. But if you have the knowledge, or if you teach your people what to do, then they can
Right.
be armed with that knowledge and get some better outcomes, probably.
So I think the very first thing is figure out who owns your mortgage, right? Who is on that back end? Because the servicer you're making payments to is just when I say servicer, they're just a company that's there to collect your payment. They take a cut and they give the rest to the actual real holder of the mortgage, the real company who owns your note and mortgage. So you want to find out who is the real entity that owns everything, if you can, and that's by doing the loan lookups on the internet, as well as asking the servicer. There are certain, and talking to an attorney, right, a consumer rights lawyer or a mortgage foreclosure lawyer is huge, because the other aspect is there are certain requirements under RESPA where you can actually send a letter requesting information, where they have to tell you who actually owns your mortgage and your note, so that way you know whether you're covered.
I heard that. Gems right there. Gems. Dropping jewels on us, Faisal.
A lot of information, a lot of information.
You
So
dropping jewels? No, that's real. It's kind of like, almost sounds like sort of like a debt validation letter.
very similar to a debt validation letter, right? But it's actually very specific, and my brain is off. It's Ramadan's, right? So I just broke my fast. So I'm only firing on 5 out of the 6 pistons, right? But um, there's a letter. It used to be a qualified written response. They've changed it, and of course my colleagues are going to be laughing at me that I didn't remember that. But it's a letter that you send to the servicer and to your lender saying, "Hey, tell me who owns my note and
Yeah.
mortgage." They have to respond. If they don't respond, then that's a statutory violation, which comes with its own thing. So
Yeah.
I would say it's very important to empower yourself if you're going through this with an amazing realtist who can help you kind of hold your hand through what you need. Finding a great lawyer who can actually figure out and understand some of the pieces. And I've got a. We have our own program, and I have my own PowerPoint as to how to find a lawyer or how to find a professional. I will impart this knowledge. When you are looking for a lawyer, especially in this realm, I would talk to at least 5 to 7 different lawyers, right? and ask them all the questions, talk to them. And the best thing to do is to prepare a little bit of a narrative paragraph that you would send to the lawyer ahead of time and say, hey, listen, you do foreclosure defense. Here's my story. Here's some documents. I want you to take a look at this. Can I get an hour of your time or even 40, 30 minutes of your time? The reason you send that ahead of time, so that way when they're talking to you, they're actually giving you advice about your circumstance, you're not spending that 30 minutes to an hour telling your story. Your story is already told in writing. You now want information as to what to do, right? So that is a little nugget that you should definitely take. I'm going to say this again. Write a narrative about your circumstance. Send it to the attorneys before you talk to them. So that way the time you spend talking to them is about how to help you get out from your circumstance, right? And then once you've talked to those 5 to 7 different attorneys, I'm going to say you're probably really only going to speak to 3. Those 3, that's how you're going to figure out which one you want to talk to. And whoever doesn't want to talk to you and doesn't want to help you, obviously, that's not the attorney for you. But that's a good start to figure out to get you out of your circumstance. So a good realtist on your side to help you through this and a good lawyer. Those 2 things are very powerful.
Hold on, here we go. I'll say this. I've never had anybody tell me that.
Really?
Hold
Yeah,
on.
I learned that. I learned that at least 20 years ago when I was going through my own problems, and I'm trying to figure out who the best lawyer was. And I remember I must have talked to 15 different lawyers, and people thought I was crazy. And I finally picked a lawyer. This is kind of fun. I picked a lawyer. He was so weird. He was so eccentric. He actually had a full-sized doll of a clown sitting at the dinner table with us, right? He was very eccentric. But the man was brilliant. And he looked at me and he said, look, I can solve your problem very quickly, but I want to make more money than that. So I'm going to charge you a really big fee to solve your problem. And I was like, you know what? If you're going to solve my problem, fine, I'll pay you the fee, right? But he gave me a solution that no one else gave me, right? Because he was smart and he was creative and he was a little eccentric. So that's why I say, and the reason he was able to do that was because I sent him in advance my full narrative. So he had a chance to think about, because this is what we do as attorneys, right? You send me a narrative, I read it, and then I sit and my mind munches on it for like days until I meet with you. So by the time I get to see you, I've already worked out some of the pieces to get you out of your situation. And then when you finally come to figure out who to pick, you want to pick the attorney who's given you a solution and a plan. If they don't give you a solution and a plan, they tell you, well, we'll figure it out. You're going to end up spending a tremendous amount of money and going nowhere. And by the time you figure that out, you've spent too much money and it's too late. So
Yeah.
hopefully that.
No, that's practical. That's practical stuff right there. Write the narrative, get it to them, let them check it out, and then go from there.
Right,
Because I'm the type, when I sit down, I want to get straight to business. So
right.
that only makes sense. Yes,
So
sir.
the
Yes,
business.
sir. So one more guy. I know you're a busy guy, man. I got one more question for you
Please.
before I let you get back to the business. What does YRD mean to you?
Oh, what is YRD mean? YRD is a revolution. YRD is the next generation of, and I say this, but Black Power, right, in the real estate market. It is about stepping. It's taking essentially all the things that have really held back, and it's just because that's the way many of our fathers and our elders had to go through, and things that our grandfathers had to endure coming through the last 70, 80, or 100 years. And YRD is the tip of the spear, right? So we have so much that we can accomplish, and so much has been accomplished, and we are standing on the backs and on the shoulders of giants who have brought us here. And now's the time to really use that tip of that spear, the sharpness, to just pierce through. And I don't want to say revolt, because I'm not here to incite a riot, but I do want to say it's a revolution, to change the world. So that's what YRD means to me.
That's it. But no, you hit it on the head. We're standing on the shoulders and backs of giants, and I know me, especially me, growing up in the era that I grew up, I didn't have to deal with the things that my parents and grandparents and great grandparents had to deal with. So now it's like, what am I going to do with this opportunity? But that's where YRD is, at the cusp of
Right.
the cusp of that liberation, and pushing it forward. So we
We
appreciate.
yeah, we endured a more subtle form of that racism. So they got the overt in your face. We've endured the more subtle one, which in many cases is very dangerous because it it scares us to be quiet because we're afraid to speak. And I think the YRD and the movement, and the things that we've seen over the last few years, has kind of broken what I call that internalized oppression and allowed us to, pushing us to really break through. Sorry, I talked too much. You
No,
give an attorney a platform, we're just going to keep talking.
I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. I'm a sponge. I'm soaking it all up, man. I mean, you dropping gems. I mean, you're all the way in Chicago. I don't get to spend time with you often, so I
No,
appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. So,
absolutely.
yeah, I
Well,
mean,
national.
what's that?
We'll see you at nationals. Hopefully, we see you
Yeah,
before
you
that.
know what? You might see me in Chicago. I'm down the street. Hop on I-80. I'll be there in 3.5 hours.
Oh, I would love it. I would love it. I
Oh
would love
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Please
Well, I know YRD Chicago has some plans. So if they
do.
once I get the date, I'm going to pull up. Better believe it.
Absolutely. We'll see you then. We'll
Yes,
see you then.
sir. You got anything else for the people?
I think I dropped a lot. If you want to reach me, you're more than welcome to reach me. I think my email is being dropped right there. Email me anytime. I will give out my cell phone. I'm afraid to give out my cell phone number, but just don't call me at 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm not going to answer. Um, but if you need to call me, you need to get a hold of me, you can reach me. I can give you my office number. It's 312-775-0980. 24 hours a day, that phone is answered. So if you've got something, email me 24 hours a day. I answer emails, I respond. Um, email me, like voting in Chicago. Vote once. What is it? How many times you vote? Whatever. Vote once. Vote often. So email me often. Love to hear from you, and we can just give you some thoughts and ideas that we've got.
Absolutely. So you heard him. He said he email him 24/7. Don't call him 24
Don't
7.
call, you can call the phone number I gave, just not myself. I didn't give myself.
Hey, well, brother Faisal, we appreciate you taking the time to share with us, and we're gonna have to bring you back. But
Would love.
until next time, man, you hold it down
Absolutely.
there in Chicago, man. Keep fighting a good fight.
Much love, brother. Much love.
Hey, it's much love, Habibi.
Habibi.
For sure, man. All right, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
No
Thank you for
doubt.
having
It's been a pleasure. Yes, yes, yes. So that's attorney Faisal Elkhatib. He came through, dropped some gems, some practical knowledge. So if you're listening to the podcast, you might want to go back because if you didn't take notes, you missed some things. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead scroll back because he dropped some practical things that can help not only yourself but help the people around you, help you become more effective. So let's talk about what we got going on at YRD. I'm proud to announce that our new website is up and running. Get with it. Here we go. It's live. You can go to youngrealtors.org. Look, let me get out the way. Go to youngrealtors.org. Check it out. We got a whole directory on there. So if you're not a member, that means you're not on the map. And you want to be on the map. You want to be on the map because we got our own referral network. So you can literally, if you got a client in California, go to California. Look at who the YRD members are. Call somebody. Get it cracking. That's what we do. What else we got going on? General body meeting every fourth Tuesday. Become a member. Go to our website. If you're a member right now and you haven't been to the new website, go to the website, log in for the first time. Go ahead and put in your avatar, put a picture up, put your bio, put your links up so people know who you are and what you're about because that's what we're here for. We're here to connect and bring people together. We also have our 75th anniversary coming up, Tampa Bay. August 2nd through the 6th. You want to be there because you don't want to be square. It's nothing like it. And so they're doing it big. We're doing it big for the 75th. And I can tell you, I'm gotten word on the street. People are already getting ready. They're doing the push-ups. They're doing the push-ups, pull-ups, they're hitting sit-ups because it's gonna be hot in Tampa. It's gonna be hot, and you want to be looking your best. So be there, be square. Register. Early bird ends on the 20th, so you got like a day. You got like 2 days to register at the rate that it's at, and then prices going up just like everything else. So with that being said, we appreciate you all. Shout out to Queen Anna Tut in the building. We got RVP Marcus Brown, Alabama, holding it down. Yes, yes, yes. Misha Kelly. We appreciate y'all. And we will be back next week with some heat. Until then, y'all gonna make some money. Man, hold it down.